Hello, and thank you for joining us here at National Government Services. We are excited to introduce our 7-part YouTube series on Medicare Part B drugs and biologicals. Throughout our drug and biological series, we will review coverage, reimbursement, and billing requirements. Also, I want to point out that within the summary for this video, we have provided related resources and material in regards to what we'll be covering. This is part 1 of our 7-part series, and in this session, we will provide an overview on coverage and reimbursement. Then to wrap up the discussion, we will walk out to our website at NGSMedicare.com and review our drug and biological resource page. So let's go ahead and get started. As we all know, the Medicare program is constantly changing. Here, we're just advising that we have taken every reasonable effort to be sure that everything in today's presentation is up to date and accurate, but it's also the responsibility of the provider to stay abreast with any Medicare changes and/or requirements. Let's go ahead and start our discussion with Part B drug coverage. The Medicare Part B program provides limited benefits for outpatient drugs. The program allows drugs that are furnished incident to a physician's services, provided that the drugs are not usually self-administered. Keep in mind, coverage is usually limited to drugs or biologicals administered by infusion and/or injection. Therefore, oral drugs, suppositories, and topical medications are considered to be usually self-administered by the patient and are not covered by Medicare Part B. Although Medicare Part D for prescription drug coverage would generally cover drugs that are self-administered. You also want to keep in mind that Medicare Advantage plans may also have different rules regarding drug coverage. Medicare Part B drugs and biologicals are covered only if specific requirements are met, which would include all of the following. They must meet the definition of drug and biological, meet all general requirements for covered items as incident to a physician's services, are reasonable and necessary for diagnosis or treatment of illness or injury for which they're being administered. They're not usually self-administered, are not excluded as non-covered immunizations, and have not been determined by the FDA to be less than effective. Now here we have identified some of the Medicare Part B covered drugs or biologicals. Keep in mind, this is not an all-inclusive list, but at the end of the session, as I mentioned, we will be walking out to our website so that you're able to locate this information as well as the specific coverage guidelines for each of these drugs and biologicals for your future reference. So next, we're going to go ahead and discuss drug pricing and reimbursement. Since 2006, CMS prices drugs based on an average sales price, also known as ASP. You'll want to note that each drug is assigned a national payment rate. All ESRD drugs furnished by both independent and hospital-based ESRD facilities, as well as specified covered outpatient drugs and biologicals with pass-through status, under the OPPS will be priced based on the ASP. Now, CMS does update the ASP files quarterly and then supplies those updated files to all the MACs for claims processing purposes. It's also important to note that NOC and compound drugs not listed on the ASP are priced individually by the MAC. Now, in situations where data on the ASP for a drug or biological is not sufficiently available from the manufacturer in order to compute an ASP, the payment amount for the drug or biological is then determined based on wholesale acquisition cost, also known as the WAC or invoice pricing. Now, each MAC does have the discretion to decide how many invoices are necessary in order to determine the reimbursement amounts for drugs subject to invoice pricing. As a contractor, NGS may base payment amounts on separate invoice for each claim or establish payment amounts prospectively based on a smaller number of invoices that represent providers' costs. Now, Medicare Part B allows payment for drugs and biologicals on an assigned basis only. Therefore, all Medicare Part B drug and biological claims will be processed as assigned. You want to keep in mind the beneficiary may only be charged the applicable unmet Medicare Part B deductible and coinsurance amounts. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning, before we end part 1 of our series, I wanted to walk out to our website and show you where you can locate this information that we just covered, the related materials and resources for the drugs and biologicals. Now here, I've just referenced the breadcrumbs or the path from the home page of our website that you would utilize to locate our drug and biological resource page if you want to jot that down. But let's go ahead and step out to our website together so that you can see how to access this information in real time. So once you step out to our website, again, that's NGSMedicare.com. The first thing that you'll have to do is accept the attestation by just clicking on the accept. Once you do that, you'll notice that you have 2 different access points on this landing page. To the right, we have the availability to log into NGS Connects. And to the left, we have the availability to access NGS Medicare. So for today's purposes, we're going to go ahead and access NGS Medicare. The first thing you'll need to do to access NGS Medicare is populate the drop-downs that are available. The first one is going to require you to populate your line of business. So I'm going to say Part B. The next one is going to allow you to populate the jurisdiction in which you're doing business in, and I'm going to say New York. What this does is that it filters the information that you're going to see on NGS Medicare based on your line of business and jurisdiction. So once you have that information populated, you would just hit enter. Once you hit enter, you'll be brought directly into our home page. And what you'll want to do is you want to go up to the top of the page and you'll come across what we call our tabs or our mega tabs. And that includes home, education, resources, events, enrollment, and apps. And as you can see, some of these mega tabs have subcategories, and those are identified with the drop-down arrow next to the tab. So for today's purposes, we're going to be taking a look at the mega tab for education. And as you can see, it has that drop-down arrow, which provides subcategories under education. We're going to be taking a look at Medicare topics. And then once you click on Medicare topics, you're going to be brought into the landing page for Medicare topics. And you're going to see that we have a ton of different topics, all listed in alphabetical order. And today we're going to go ahead and take a look at drugs and biologicals. Once you make that selection, you'll be brought directly into our drug and biological resource page. And you're going to see that we use mainly left side navigation, meaning that all your links and related information is going to be directly on the left-hand side of the page. The 2 things that we covered today were the Medicare Part B drug coverage and reimbursement. And as you can see here, it just gives you a nice overview of the Medicare Part B drug coverage. Directly below that are the covered Medicare Part B drugs and biologicals. And this is the same listing that I showed you earlier in today's session, but the difference here is that you get more information along with any related resources or guides that are available for each one of these specific drugs. So whether you're billing antigens, blood clotting factors, DME drugs, injectables, IVIGs, oral cancer drugs, and so on, we have everything you'll need in one centralized location. Also, what I want to point out in the left-hand side of the page is that we have tons of other different topics and overviews on different policies and specific drug coverage. So you'll see here we just have Medicare Part B general billing. It just gives you some general billing information. If you're looking to learn more about discarded drugs or waste with a JW and JZ modifier, we have you covered here as well. And again, as you're looking through this information at each one of these topics, you'll see that we have a lot of different information related to that topic, whether it be billing tips, billing guides, resources, MLNs, internet-only manuals, anything that's applicable to that specific topic will be here in this one centralized location for you. One last thing I want to point out before we wrap up today's session is at the very bottom of the page, you'll see that we have a link for related content. And here again is just more resources and guides for you to properly bill a specific drug or biological, or if you just need a general overview on something, it's be right here for you under our related content section. All right, so for more drug and biological guidance, please consider viewing the rest of our series, which offers information on vaccinations and administration, clinical trials, NOC and compound drugs, self-administered and free of drug charge, reporting waste with the JW and JZ modifiers, and also just general billing guidelines for drugs and biologicals. We thank you for taking the time to view our educational material, and we hope that this information was helpful for you.